really looking forward to this featured strawweight bout. We have two very hot prospects in Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Ribas. And Matt, I don't know if you have the same level of dedication that Amanda Ribas' dad does, but did you see that tattoo out there?
It's aggressive.
It's not a great tattoo. And I know Luke Thomas took a long time to talk about it, but Amanda Ribas' dad is all in on this run that his daughter has, getting the tattoo of the finish over Emily Whitmire. That was her UFC debut. Since then, Ribas has wins over Mackenzie Dern, Randa Marcos, and Paige Van Zandt, submitting Paige Van Zandt and saying, "Goodbye, Paige. Enjoy Knuckle Mania with BKFC." And for Ribas, that last fight, you can see it up on the screen. I have her last weight as 126. It was at flyweight, moving back down to strawweight. We haven't seen issues for her, kind of mixing it in between 25 and 15. For Marina Rodriguez, it's been a weird run so far in the UFC. If you go back in the last 5 fights, a draw against Randa Marcos, 2 wins over Jessica Aguilar, old Jag, pioneer in women's MMA, and a win over Tisha Torres. Draw against Cynthia Calvillo, and then a loss to Carla Esparza by split decision. What Marina Rodriguez is really good at is being a great Muay Thai fighter. She fights really, really long for this division. She's only 5'6", 65 inches of reach. They're going to be pretty well neck and neck in terms of reach. The height advantage, obviously, to Rodriguez. But when she gets into a clinch position, the knees, the elbows, you really have to watch out for them. And she's very busy when she's on the ground. You saw that in her fight against Carla Esparza when she was in bottom position. Esparza, after that first round, one of her eyes was blown right up, obviously bleeding and swelling. And Rodriguez really able to be busy in that fight. So that's what makes this one really interesting. Ribas, black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in judo. Maybe if she goes for some head and arm throws, you worry about it a little bit based on how good the Thai clinch is of Rodriguez. This is a great fight, though, because both of these women, both very good strikers and both very adept on the ground. I'm looking forward to it.
So am I, and I really like everything that we've heard from Ribas' camp coming into this fight. She doesn't just want to be another fighter on a McGregor card. I really like the fact that she realizes this is a huge opportunity that she's going to get that not many other UFC fighters ever get it. She's going to be the show opener, if you will, for the pay-per-view portion of the card. It is a huge matchup, too, because Marina Rodriguez, she fights in, it's not the perfect comp, but hear me out. She fights a little bit like Germaine de Randamie. It's not that she has the technique that de Randamie does, just a very classic Muay Thai style in which the way that they fight. For Rodriguez, it's odd because off her back, she does have decent ground and pound, kind of like Tony Ferguson, where she is looking for the elbows off her back. Stop doing that, though. There's nothing I hate worse than when people who don't have great jiu-jitsu look to be offensive off of their back. Use that energy to get back up to your feet, because for Rodriguez, if she goes out there and strikes with pretty much anyone in this division in a pure kickboxing fight, if her name's not Wei Li or Joanna, she has a very good chance of beating them. And against Ribas, Ribas on the ground is not the person you want to be messing around with, going for strikes off of your back, because you're not going to win a round by just, light hammer fists and elbows off your back. And Ribas is going to be going for submissions constantly. I really like what Ribas did against Paige Van Zandt. And I understand Ribas is a little bit of that. We just talked about it, so it's fresh in my mind. That Brad Tavares category, where you look at her record, it's not overly impressive, the people who she's beat. Let's just be honest. It's the way that she's been able to beat them, though, which has been impressive. And her biggest win by far is that Mackenzie Dern win. But I'm going to be honest, this is a bit of a hot take. She didn't fight the best version of Mackenzie Dern. She didn't even fight that version of Mackenzie Dern. You have to go back, and it is hard to remember it in the time, but that was Dern's first fight coming off of her pregnancy, and she came back way too fast. She had just had her daughter, and then came back 2 months later, and normally a training camp is 2 months, so I do think that was a little too much too soon for her, and I do think there's been a little too much hype behind Ribas because that was such a big win. Because you look at her other 2 wins, okay, so beat Paige Van Zandt. It's good, but it's not really blowing the doors off me. And then the Randa Marcos win. Listen, we like Randa.
Oh, yeah. Big Randa guy. I mean, we're Canadians, right?
It's about the extent of that. You can go out there and you beat Randa Marcos. So beating Marcos shows me, okay, you can beat a primary wrestler. That's good. Beating Paige Van Zandt doesn't tell me all that much, if I'm being completely honest.
Up a weight class, too.
Exactly. There was a lot of extenuating circumstances around that fight, so I wouldn't put a lot of stock into that either. Rodriguez has definitely fought the better level of competition, and her record shows it. Now, I'm glad MMA has more of this mindset than boxing does. In boxing, it's if you lose, you're bad. In MMA, cue up John Kavanaugh, you win or you learn. And for Marina Rodriguez, she's fought the highest level of competition, and she's been able to hold her own against that. And in some cases, I do think that means more than just beating a bunch of people who you are supposed to beat in the first place.
I threw this down in my notes before we came on here. You look at Marina Rodriguez, and this is typically a thing with, fighters that have a lot of experience on the regional scene. And we see it sometimes. You get a fighter that comes out of Brazil, and whether it's the Jungle Fights Network, whatever it is, Yikes. A little bit of salt, but it happens everywhere. It happens in the States too. It happens all over the place. So Marina Rodriguez, great Brazilian regional scene, career. Then she comes on to Dana White's Contender Series, the Brazilian season, and picks up a big first-round win. And then it's like, okay, you really have to pay attention to Marina Rodriguez. Kind of like Taila Santos. Had a lot of wins in the Brazilian regional scene, gets a big win. And then her UFC debut didn't go all that well. So for Marina Rodriguez, it was, okay, she really proved it to me there. Then let's really just throw her to the wolves in the UFC. And she's taken on really good fighters. Again, you might look at the draw against Reina Marcos. You want to play MMA math with these two ladies. One has a win, one has a draw. It is what it is. Then she fights Jessica Aguilar. Pioneer of women's MMA, but Jag will give you a fight.
She destroyed her, though.
She destroyed her. Chap lip Jag, big win. Then she fights Tecia Torres. That's her best win. And that's a really good win. She outstruck Torres, landed 40 more total strikes, and looked amazing in that fight. Then she has the draw against Cynthia Calvillo. Again, a wrestler. It's going to happen in that fight. And then she loses against Carla Esparza in a split decision. I went back and watched that. Again, it's a little tricky. I had Esparza winning it.
I honestly think Rodriguez has lost her last two fights. That Calvillo beat her as well. I did think she beat Marcos, and it's really the case with a lot of Rodriguez's fights. She's either beating them up on the feet or she's being controlled off of her back, and it comes down to what do the judges value more that specific night.
That's it. So, again, you've got Amanda Ribas, the world's behind her. Her dad got a tattoo of her finishing Emily Whitfire, the old Spitfire. And she has that jiu-jitsu and that judo background. So if we have a look at the votes on Tapology, Matt, 650 of them out there, 92% going with Ribas, 50% by decision, 42% have her to win by submission. If we have a look at the odds, Rodriguez opened a plus 230 underdog. She's now a plus 248. Ribas opened a minus 270. She's now a minus 319 favorite. That's crazy.
Yeah, again, I'm pretty high on Ribas. I think she's going to win this fight. If there was 100 mats, though, 92 of them would not pick her to win. Rodriguez is a real threat in this division. She has legit power. I would say one of the more powerful women in the division. She has really nice Muay Thai on the feet. I think the clinch game of her might have been hyped up a little bit too much. Again, if it's in the clinch, I favor Ribas tremendously because the closer these two are, the more likelihood of a grappling exchange is going to happen. And Ribas on the ground compared to Rodriguez, it's not even close. Like on the feet, Ribas should be able to hold her own. I don't expect her to win a bunch of long drawn out combinations or exchanges against Rodriguez, but I do think she'll be able to hold her own and keep her distance. On the ground, I don't think this fight's close. I think that the fact that Rodriguez can be held down and controlled is really going to play into Amanda Ribas' favor, and I'll even say Ribas by sub in this one.
The weird thing in this fight, again, for Marina Rodriguez, 61% takedown defense. That's not great. She got taken down by Esparza 5 times. She got taken down by Calvillo 3 times. She held her own against Torres and against Aguilar. She got taken down by Marcos. It's not something that I love. Again, it's not terrible. It isn't, good, by all means. But again, she's been taken down her last 2 fights, and they haven't gone her way. If she's really going to get going, you got to set up things with the hands really quickly. That's definitely her bread and butter. But again, overall, Amanda Ribas, the great jiu-jitsu background, the great judo background, the fact that she can close distance against a lot of her opponents, not take a ton of damage. I really do favor Amanda Ribas in this fight. So I will go with the crowd on Tapology and the gamblers out there, and I'm going to go with Amanda Ribas.
I really hope that Ribas doesn't win this fight and they match her up with Joanna next, or just do something stupid like that. Like, that feels like something the UFC would do. They're like, oh, wow, you've got your first top 15 win. You want to get, like, a title eliminator, because Ribas is one of the more hyped prospects in this division. I really don't want them to rush her development, though, because we do see massive improvements in between every single one of her performances, and I hope she doesn't get one of those, wow, here's a massive jump up, let's see how you can do, because it probably won't turn out that well. So if she gets this win, keep on developing her at about the rate that they have, and I think Amanda Ribas is going to go on and have a very successful career.
I am really looking forward to this fight. We both have Amanda Ribas to get the win, and overall, Matt, a great main card, one definitely worth checking out. In our co-main event, Hooker taking on the Bellator guy, Michael Chandler, and our main event, the rematch, a weight class up between Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. So make sure you keep locked in with Fight and Picks, Matt, as we always say. Let's get into it.